If you bought a new truck or SUV in the last few years, there's a real chance it came with a ticking time bomb under the hood. We're talking millions of engines from GM, Toyota, Honda, Hyundai, basically everybody failing catastrophically. Some at 30,000 miles, some at 60,000. And it's not just one or two bad batches. Over 5 million engines are either recalled or under investigation right now. So what the hell is going on? Well, Automotive News just published a massive investigation where they interviewed engineers, industry experts, and engine builders to get to the bottom of this, and what they found is pretty eye-opening. Today we're breaking down exactly what's causing these failures, why it's happening across every manufacturer, and whether this is going to get better or worse. Let's get into it. So back in early December, Automotive News published this article, and this is important because Automotive News isn't some clickbait outlet. They're an industry publication that usually plays nice with manufacturers, so when they're calling this out, you know it's serious. Here's how they opened the article. The automotive industry's decade-long push for cleaner, more fuel-efficient engines has created unintended consequences. Translation: in trying to meet EPA and CAFE fuel economy regulations, manufacturers basically broke their engines. The article says they talked to engineers and industry experts, and here's what they found. Today's engines deliver record amounts of power per liter while running at higher temperatures and creating higher in-cylinder pressures. All of that stress is being forced through smaller engines with less bearing surface area to handle it. But that's just part of the story. The article goes way deeper. They interviewed Greg Davis, who's a professor of the University of Michigan Flint's Advanced Engine Research Lab. This guy knows engines, and here's what he told them. In the push to minimize exhaust emissions and improve fuel economy, automakers have had to aggressively downsize engines while trying to maintain the performance that drivers expect. Think about what that actually means. You used to have a 6.0-liter V8 making 360 horsepower. Now you've got a 2.7-liter turbo four-cylinder making the same power. That smaller engine is working way harder, generating way more heat, dealing with way higher cylinder pressures. Davis goes on to explain that this has led to higher operating peak pressures and greater average engine loads. Both of those increase bearing loads and engine wear. You're basically asking these smaller engines to do the job of much bigger ones, and physics doesn't care about your fuel economy targets. Then they talked to Tom Howell, who does powertrain testing for an Austria-based company that works with automakers, and he brought up something really important. Thinner oils, tighter tolerances, and harder bearing materials are all contributing to the industry's engine problems. Let me break that down. Most modern engines now run 0W20 oil. Some are going to 0W16. There are even engines coming out with 0W8 oil. Old truck from the 90s probably ran 10W30 or 5W40. We're talking about oil that's literally half as thick. Why? Because thinner oil flows easier, which means the engine doesn't have to work as hard to pump it. That saves maybe half a mile per gallon or a mile per gallon. Multiply that across hundreds of thousands of vehicles, and it helps manufacturers meet their targets and avoid fines. But here's the problem. Between your crankshaft and the bearings, there's a gap that's less than the thickness of a human hair, and all that's separating those metal surfaces is a thin film of oil. When you make that oil thinner, you have almost zero margin for error. This is where it gets really interesting. The article interviewed Dave from Dave's Auto Center, and he talked about something most people have never heard of: swarf. Swarf is the microscopic debris left over from machining operations. When they hone cylinder bores to get that perfect finish, they use an abrasive tool with coolant. Dave explained that the combination of metal particles, abrasive material, and coolant basically creates something like concrete. It's brittle, it's abrasive, and if it gets into your bearings, it's game over. Dave said that he and his crew build engines one at a time by hand, and they spend hours cleaning every single part to remove this contamination. Multiple washes, compressed air, specialized brushes, whatever it takes. But GM, Toyota, Ford, They're building 1,000 engines a day per factory. And with these ultra-tight tolerances and thin oils, there's no room for error. Even one microscopic piece of debris in the wrong place can wipe out bearings and destroy an engine. So here's what I think after reading all this and looking at the real-world failures. The experts are absolutely right that thinner oils and tighter tolerances are part of the problem, but I don't think that's the whole story. Because here's the thing, there are engines out there running 0W20 that are getting 300,000, 400,000, even a million miles. The Toyota 5.7-liter V8 in the old Tundra, that thing runs 0W20 and it's bulletproof. So it's not just the thin oil. The difference is that the 5.7-liter was a bigger, naturally aspirated engine with more surface area on the bearings and more margin for error. The new engines, they're pushed right to the edge. Maximum power, maximum efficiency, minimum size. And when you combine that with mass production where you're building 1,000 engines a day, even a small percentage of manufacturing defects becomes hundreds of thousands of failed engines. Think about it this way. If you're running thick oil with loose tolerances, a tiny piece of debris might just get crushed or pushed through. No big deal. But with ultra-thin oil and clearances measured in microns, that same piece of debris acts like sandpaper on your bearings. The article mentions that manufacturers have admitted to specific problems. GM cited rod bearing damage from sediment on connecting rods and crankshaft oil passages. Toyota blamed machining contamination. Stellantis, and this is crazy, recalled Jeep plug-in hybrids because sand from the casting process got into the engine blocks. Actual sand in your engine block. This is a quality control disaster. Let me walk through all the factors that I think are stacking up to create this perfect storm. Factor 1. Engine downsizing and turbocharging. This is the foundation of everything else. Manufacturers took engines that used to be 5, 6, 7 liters and shrunk them down to 2.7, 3.0, 3.5, but they kept the same power by adding turbos. Problem is, smaller displacement means less bearing surface area, less metal to spread the load across, and turbos add massive heat and stress to the equation. You're pushing cylinder pressures that would have been racing-only territory 20 years ago, but now it's in every truck on the dealer lot. Then you have the oil thickness problem, pushed for fuel economy. Yeah, a thinner oil might save an extra mile per gallon or half a mile per gallon, but if it means your engine is eating bearings for breakfast, what's the point? And then there's the manufacturing quality and speed. When you're building engines at scale, hundreds or thousands a day, maintaining perfect quality control is incredibly difficult. Every crankshaft needs to be machined perfectly. Every bearing surface needs to be exactly to spec. Every single part needs to be cleaned thoroughly to remove all contamination. One mistake, one piece of swarf in the wrong place, and that engine is a ticking time bomb. And here's something the article touched on. A lot of these problem engines were built during or right after COVID. Supply chains were chaos, some manufacturers switched suppliers, workers were out sick, quality control procedures probably got streamlined or skipped. I think we're still discovering problems that originated during 2020, 2022. Those engines are just now hitting the mileage where these defects show up. Factor 4. Start-stop technology. I know this is controversial, but I genuinely think start-stop is accelerating engine wear. Every time you start an engine, there's a brief moment where oil pressure hasn't fully built up. Most engine wear happens during startup. Now you're sitting in traffic and your engine is stopping and starting every 30 seconds. That's dozens or hundreds of extra start cycles per day. With ultra-thin oil and tight tolerances, I don't think engineers fully accounted for what this does to bearing life over time. Factor 5. Variable oil pumps. These pumps are designed to only deliver as much oil pressure as needed at any given moment. Great for efficiency, but if the pump doesn't ramp up fast enough after a start-stop cycle, or if there's any malfunction, you've got components running without adequate lubrication. Factor 6. Direct injection and higher pressures. Direct injection is incredible for power and efficiency, but it creates higher cylinder pressures than old-school port injection. More pressure means more stress on pistons, rods, bearings, everything in the rotating assembly. Plus, without fuel washing over the intake valves, you get carbon buildup that can affect long-term performance. None of these things alone would necessarily be catastrophic. Plenty of engines have turbos, plenty run thin oil, plenty have start-stop. But when you stack all of them together, downsized turbo engine, ultra-thin oil, tight tolerances, start-stop, variable oil pump, direct injection, mass production with minimal quality control margin, you create a situation where everything has to be perfect all the time, forever. And in the real world, with mass production and millions of vehicles, perfect doesn't exist. Alright, so the big question, is this getting better or worse? And honestly, I think it's going to get worse before it gets better. Here's why. There's been talk about the Trump administration rolling back some fuel economy regulations. On the surface, you might think that means manufacturers can go back to simpler, more reliable engines, but it's more complicated than that. One major change is removing EV credits from CAFE calculations. Previously, manufacturers could build EVs and use those to offset their gas-guzzling trucks. A Tesla or a Chevy Bolt gave them credits that allowed them to sell Silverados and F-150s without worrying too much about the fleet average. Now, EVs are being removed from those calculations. Manufacturers have to hit fuel economy targets with their gas and diesel vehicles alone. The target is 34 miles per gallon average by 2031. Think about what that means. If you're selling trucks that get 15 to 20 miles per gallon and SUVs that get 22 miles per gallon, how do you average out to 34? You can't, not with traditional engines. So what are they going to do? Probably one or more of these things. Make everything a hybrid. Add electric motors and batteries to offset the gas engine. Push even more aggressive downsizing. Smaller engines, more turbos, tighter tolerances. Use even thinner oils. We might see 0W4 or 0W2 in the near future. Add more complexity, more start-stop, more variable systems, more electronics. In other words, engines are probably going to get more complex, not less. Here's the other thing. Manufacturers have invested billions with a B into EV platforms, hybrid technology, and all this efficiency tech. They're not going to abandon that just because of policy changes. If the administration changes in 4 years, they could be caught flat-footed. So they're going to keep developing this technology regardless. They're committed to this path. I think we're going to see more recalls, more failures, more complexity. The internal combustion engine is being pushed beyond its practical limits while trying to meet conflicting goals: maximum power, maximum efficiency, minimum emissions, all at a price point people will pay. Look, I love modern automotive technology. The performance these engines deliver is genuinely incredible. But I think we need to be realistic about the trade-offs. Maybe a truck that gets 28 miles per gallon but lasts 300,000 miles is better than one that gets 32 miles per gallon but dies at 60,000. Maybe we pushed the internal combustion engine past its practical limits. This isn't just about a few bad engines. This is about an industry that got caught between government regulations, consumer expectations, and the laws of physics. Something had to give, and what gave was reliability. I want to hear from you guys in the comments. Have you been affected by any of these recalls? Do you think I'm being too harsh on manufacturers or not harsh enough? What's your experience been with modern engines? If this video helped you understand what's actually going on, hit that like button and subscribe. I'll keep digging into this stuff and bringing you the real story behind these issues. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.